So my name is Karen Reddington Sackowitz, and my business is called Your Stories Inc., which has two kind of sides to it. One is a personal biography business. So I work with clients to capture life stories and put together keepsake books, or some just want a transcription or a photo book or things like that. So that's more of the personal side of the business. And then the business side of the business, or the more commercial side, is storytelling for business. So storytelling is sort of a word that's overused these days, but it does make a difference, and it's really, really important in marketing today, especially where content is coming at potential customers from every direction. It's good to have compelling content, and a lot of that goes back to telling a story through that content. So with that, let's start with, what is content? This kind of drives me crazy because I think that the word content is confusing. It's information presented to potential customers for a certain purpose. It's just writing. It's articles, it's blog posts, it's something that, it just makes me laugh sometimes, because the business jargon is it's content, and customers consume the content, which is really just saying, I read a really great article and it got my attention. So if that's an intimidating word, it's just good writing and topical, information that people enjoy or respond to. And like I said, here you can solve the problem, inspire, encourage trust, influence the purchasing decision. So although it's not straight up sales and marketing writing, it is try to, persuade your reader, viewer, what have you, to engage with you in a way that's going to help your business. Examples of content, like I said, blog posts, videos, social media posts, a white paper, which is kind of an old term, but it really does, it can actually also take the shape of an ebook. So if you've got a white paper, a topical PDF that someone can download from your website, then that's something that would count as content as well. Or a webinar, something like this. You give free input or advice, or things that people can use. You get their attention, and that can help the business. So these are all different ways that you can reach out to potential customers. Blog posts are probably the most common. A lot of people I talk to are business owners, and they're in the business they're in for a reason. Their specialty is what it is. They're not writers. They hate writing, or they don't have time. There's not a lot of time in the day to sit around and go, oh God, I've got to freshen up my blog post. So, a lot of times that's something that can be outsourced pretty easily. What is content and what isn't? And this is what gets kind of confusing to some people. So we'll do a little pop quiz. What the heck? Why not? Content, not content. So with the slam dunk lesson we just had, I guess the question is, what is considered something that would engage a reader or a viewer versus something that is straight up, here's my product, and I'm going to tell you about it. So who wants to figure out if a press release is a content or not content? Anyone? It is not. I'll give you that one. It is not, because that is coming straight from the company to the audience. Here's a press release about our event, our product, our service. We're just talking at you, kind of thing. Number two is a slow cooker recipe posted by a cooker manufacturer. So that's a little different, right? It's not a product saying, hey, we make this slow cooker and you should buy it and it's on sale this week. It's saying, hey, you're busy, you've got to make dinner for your family. Here's a great recipe for you to use with this slow cooker. Oh, and look, we make slow cookers. So it's sort of a, like a side door, but it's offering content that person can actually really use. The next was, same thing here too, exercise basics, an article by an area hospital. So I did a campaign for an area hospital last fall where they want to put their newsletter in front of all these people on a weekly basis, but they don't want to necessarily say, here's about our orthopedics department, here's what's going on in our ER department, that kind of thing. They want to get the attention of the reader without just talking about the hospital. So what we did was we put together sort of a mix of compelling content. So maybe two things would be a repost of the blogs that they have on their site about things like, you know, how to exercise if you're pregnant, or what you should do to keep your sugar levels in check, or something like that. Useful information. And then we would also mix in a recipe, and just click right through to all recipes, just picked a recipe site. And that got a lot of play. And then throw in kind of a fun article, or a more in-depth article from a resource like a Cleveland Clinic or something like that. So in the end, it's a newsletter, probably 4 elements in it, 2 of which are health related, or 3 of which are health related, but again, not all about the hospital. And the last one being something that they can use right away, like a recipe. Website copy about a product is not content, because that is, again, you're not putting out information that people might go, oh, this is really interesting. You're just talking at the audience saying, here's our product, here's what it's about, here's the description, here's how to get it. Very straightforward outwardly. A product one sheet, same thing. This is kind of, you know, this is what our product is about. And it's not really engaging, it's just sort of describing. But then content in another form would be a college alumni magazine. So there's a college alumni magazine. The purpose, of course, is to get you to re-engage with your college, probably donate to your college, support financially. But that's not what the magazine's going to say. There's probably going to be a note in the back, but it's mostly going to be about what alumni of that university are up to, or some interesting things that the college is introducing this year that you might find interesting. So it's more palatable in terms of being something that's interesting to read, and not something that's being marketed towards you. So I just did the quiz myself, didn't I? Inbound marketing, which is another term that I think, you know, I just chuckle because it all sounds so intimidating when they say it this way. Inbound marketing is really, and here's the actual definition of it. It's a methodology that tracks customers by creating valuable content experiences. It basically means you're writing good stuff that people want to read, or you're posting good videos that people want to see and share. So inbound marketing means someone is going to find your business through the content that you've put out there for them to engage with. So if you are putting out a really good blog post and someone really enjoys it, and then they click on something, a link maybe you've got in that blog post, and they find your website, and then they want to talk to you or buy a product or enlist a service, then they've come to you. So that's why they're calling it inbound marketing. Put out good content, and inbound marketing will then hopefully take place, and your customers will find you that way. So that's what that term is overly saying, but that's basically what that is. So storytelling basics. And at the end, I'm going to share with you some really good books, because I took most of this from 2 books that I really like on this topic. So I'll share that at the end. But basically, the story types, there's different types of stories for business. There are elements that make a story really good and really compelling. And then I've got some case studies to sort of demonstrate a couple of them. So story types, the founder story is probably one of my favorites, because it's the reason you do what you do. It's the reason you got into the business that you're in. And I think that especially today, people want to engage with a person. They want to know why it is you do what you do, or what makes you passionate about it, or what led you into this area to begin with. It's just sort of it's a fun thing to know, and it makes you feel more connected as a customer, which is always a good thing. So again, it's the who, what, when, why moment. You know, what got you going on this path? What got you thinking about this business? Who created it? What was the moment where you said, you know what, I think I'm onto something, or I really think I could do well with this, or I think I can make this happen. So, you know, what is that? It's and what happened at that time. So it's the elements of any good story, even though we're putting it in a business context. It's the elements of any good story, any good movie you see, any good book you read. There's that aha moment, the challenge, you know, the aspiration, and then the success, and people love that. So if they can get that from your business, it will stick with them. People remember things that come with stories attached to them much better than straight up info. So it will stick with them, which I'll show you in my examples as well. And it makes you relatable and connects you with your potential customer. Another is the purpose story. Similar, what is the goal or objective that fuels your business? What got you going? Like, what are you really about, and what do you really want to offer your potential customer? It's the reason you get out of bed every day, the reason you go to work every day. That can really resonate with people in a way that makes you more personally attached to them than you would in a normal marketing content or marketing piece. The value story is more about the customer. So this is more about, I know what your pain point is, I know what your struggle is, I know what your challenge is, and here's how I can help you. And this is how I can get you from your problem to your solution. I offer you this value, and this is why I'm different in offering you the value. And the phrase to keep in mind is, it's so much more than. You know, it's so much more than a car. It's a lifestyle that helps you get out into the nature. It's much more than a virtual assistant. It's much more than that. It frees up your time so you can do more for your business. So it's about the solution that comes with whatever that product or service is, and the value that it offers the person you're talking to. Customer story is basically a testimonial, because that's, I mean, you can't get better than that, to have someone say, I tried this product and it made a huge difference, or I enlisted this service with my business and my sales went up, or you know, anything that kind of shows if someone else can do the talking for you, it's just that much more valuable. So that would be the customer story. Story elements. So I kind of combine, like I said, these two books that I love on this topic, kind of combined both their lists into one, because I think it all matters. Identifiable characters. So you see this in a TV commercial or in a print ad or something visual. A lot of times it's, the character is identifiable. I understand that person that has that struggle or that challenge. I get that. I deal with that too in my business, in my family, in my, you know, everyday life. So again, the character is identifiable, relatable problem. And then the details too, I know that's on the bottom, but specific details. So you want this identifiable character to sort of grow in your reader or your viewer's mind. So I get who this person is, and I kind of get where this is going a little bit. So I know who the character of this story is. I know what their challenge is, because I get it. It's a challenge for me as well. And then anytime there's authentic emotion, and again, you see this a lot in TV commercials where there's, you know, a very endearing moment or a climax, or you get swept up with it. You know, even if it's only 30 or 60 seconds, you'll get swept up in it. So it's a good point to put into your story as well. And then the significant moment. Here's when I tried that product. Here's when I enlisted that service. Here's what happened when this character in our story took this turn that we wanted them to take, and we guided them along the way. We had the answers, we had the solution, and here's how it turned out for them. So again, just sort of taking a customer journey, whether it's a real one or a story that you're creating, and then walking through all the elements of a good story in general, so that they really relate to it, and they're sort of swept up in it the way you want them to be. So here's some case studies just to kind of show what we're talking about. I don't know if you guys are addicted to Humans of New York, but I absolutely am, and I have been since day one. I love that feed and the site and everything, so I have all the books. If you're not familiar, it's a young man years ago was working, I think, in finance or technology, got laid off, and decided to take his camera all around New York City and just interview random people, Humans of New York. He's gone global. He's done phenomenal work to help people, and it's been a crazy ride, and it's really interesting stuff. But he does some posts that are a series, a story. So this one was up recently. So here's an example of a story that was on Humans of New York that really it shows how you walk through this person's journey. So here's a couple that migrated to the U.S. from Turkey. They had a dream of coming here and starting a business. They had a dream of they came up with a shoe design of all things. This is what they decided to make. So they were going to start their business making these shoes. So I won't read you the quote, but basically they just were struggling. They didn't think it was going to happen. So here's our identifiable characters, our immigrants that are coming here to start a new life and make a business, and they've got an idea and they believe in it. They're struggling, their challenges, you know, they haven't raised any money. They're not sure if they're going to be able to stay in the US. So we're kind of already hooked into this story, right? We're kind of already rooting for these people. And then as it goes on, they tweak their design, they keep working, they stay, they really, keep the distance. And this is a moment where someone that is a really expert in the industry, I can't remember what the guy's title was, but he tried the shoes on and was like, holy cow, these are the best shoes in the world. And of course that's a huge moment for them. That's when things start to turn around. So now we're kind of excited, right? We're kind of like, oh my gosh, I hope it works out for these guys. And then because of Humans of New York, they did, they launched their business, they did pretty well. And then from Humans of New York following this story all the way through, their sales went through the roof, that's kind of the exposure of being on Humans of New York. But that's the end where we go, oh my gosh, it's a great ending. Business went through the roof. So again, we've got our characters, they're struggling, we're rooting for them. They find a guide, someone who can help them along the way. It's the moment that turns everything around, and here we have success for them. So it's, we're happy for them. It's the structure of that story that will bring your potential customers in as well. And it's shoes. I mean, it doesn't have to be something spectacular and glamorous. They just wanted to make shoes. So, and yet we're so tied up in it. This is another case study I wanted to bring up. And it's funny because this is sort of a missed opportunity, I think. This young woman is amazing. Her name is Nikki, and she used to be my babysitter back when I used to need a babysitter. And when I first met her, she had worked for years in a local chocolate shop. And her dream was to take over the chocolate shop when the family retired or, moved on, and they had kind of let her think that that's what they're going to do. Long story short, the family, I don't know, someone gives the business to someone else who decides to sell it. She loses that opportunity. She's a very hard-working young woman. She was babysitting for 2 different families. She was working some other job on top of that. But all she wanted to do was have a chocolate shop. And so, we kept in touch over the years. She was working at a chocolate shop in Darien for a while. And then I just saw her on social media about a month ago announcing that she's starting a chocolate shop. And it's a virtual, it's an online store. And I thought, oh my gosh, she finally did it. This is so amazing. Like, I always wished I had the money to finance her, but I didn't, but I just supported her because I knew this was her dream and she was such a hard worker. So I was all excited when I went to her website to see, about her story, about finally getting this dream. And this is the description that is on her Facebook page, which is why I'm going to call her very soon and say, we need to talk, because, it's eating chocolate is euphoric. She's based in Connecticut and she's a certified chocolatier. That's great. But that doesn't grab me. I wanted to see the story of how she always dreamed of owning this shop and how she practiced her artistry in this shop in Darien. And I wanted to know all of that. So I think this case study is sort of a missed opportunity of where a story about her personal journey would go a really long way in helping promote her business. And then finally, this is Carmen Funeral Homes. They're based in the Hartford area. I use this man as an example for so many things because at the time I was writing for the Hartford Business Journal, and we were just highlighting some businesses, family businesses, and I forget what the exact title of what the supplement was. So I thought, oh, okay, I have to interview this funeral home director. Okay. And it was one of the most fascinating conversations I've ever had. And he's just an amazing man, and there's not enough time to talk about all the things that he's done in his business and to help outside of his business. So I thought I would just sort of use two things to show the difference of how he's presented, not through story and through story. And this is his sort of bio information that's on his website, as a lot of people have, where he graduated, where he went to school. It's important. And he's been on boards and commissions, and that's all wonderful. But from having met this man, I know that there's so much more to him. And then there's a quote here from the article that I wrote about him, about how his classmate's father had died when his father owned the funeral home. His classmate was just so moved by how the family took care of them at that time. And then I love his quote about, we're invited into people's hearts at the darkest time in their life. And he really, really respects his role and his job and his business and what it means to the people that he serves. And it just really struck me that that he, yeah, he just lives and breathes it. And the reason I've got a picture over here of the one of the 9/11 memorial walls was to remind myself to tell you the other story, which is that right after 9/11, he went into the city and he just walked the streets. And as a man who has dealt in grief for so long, he just wanted to offer help. So he walked through the streets, and if he saw someone just sitting alone or looking sad or lost, he would just talk to them or ask them if they needed to talk. And that's how he helped after that horrible tragedy. He dove in and just walked around to help people. So for me, if I'm looking for someone who does this kind of business, I'm going to go to that guy. I mean, it's not a business; it's a passion, and it's something he takes very seriously as a businessman and as a human, and that made a huge difference for me. So again, I interviewed him, I don't know, 8 years ago or something, and he still is in my head. It's just amazing. So, so these are the books that I pulled some of those elements out of, the story elements and what to add in story types. There's 3 books that I really like: Stories That Stick by Kindra Hall, Building a Brand Story by Donald Miller, and The Content Fuel Framework by Melanie Diesel. So all of them are really, different angles on the same thing, but very helpful. Like Kindra Hall does a lot of keynote speeches and things like that. Donald Miller is more, from the agency side of building a brand and so forth. So those are really good resources. I actually have them. So if anyone wants to borrow one of these or all of them, I could just bring them to HAYVN. And then that's it. And then as a HAYVN member, I just thought if anyone wants to talk about your business and what kind of story you could put behind your marketing, I'm happy to sit down for half an hour or longer, whatever, and just sort of draw that story out and see what we might be able to put together for you to put out to your potential customers. So I guess we have time for questions if there are any.